The smell of sawdust and old wood polish hung thick in the air of Walker General Store as I adjusted the last display of mason jars, my calloused hands trembling slightly. The store buzzed with an energy I hadn't felt in years. Townspeople crowded between the narrow aisles, their voices mixing with the creak of old floorboards that had supported 3 generations of walkers. Today was the day. After 42 years, Dad was officially stepping down, and everyone in Millbrook, Georgia had come to witness the passing of the torch. Before we jump back in, tell us where you're tuning in from, and if this story touches you, make sure you're subscribed, because tomorrow I've saved something extra special for you. I wiped my palms on my worn jeans and stepped back into the shadows near the hardware section, where the light didn't quite reach. From here, I could see everything. The makeshift podium Dad had set up near the cash register, the red, white, and blue bunting Mom had hung from the ceiling fans, and Ryan, my younger brother, standing front and center in his pressed khakis and button-down shirt, flashing that easy smile that had charmed teachers, girlfriends, and now, apparently, our father. Ladies and gentlemen, Dad's voice boomed over the crowd, his chest puffed with pride. Thank you all for coming to celebrate this momentous day in the Walker family legacy. I shifted my weight, the familiar ache in my lower back reminding me of the countless hours I'd spent unloading delivery trucks, stocking shelves, and fixing the temperamental cash register that had been acting up since Bush was in office. The first one. 32 years old, and I could map every inch of this store with my eyes closed. I knew which floorboards squeaked by the candy display, which customers paid late, and exactly how to sweet-talk the ancient heating system through another Georgia winter. It brings me great joy, Dad continued, his weathered hand resting on Ryan's shoulder, to announce that my son Ryan will be taking over Walker General Store, effective immediately. The applause hit me like a physical thing. I watched Ryan step forward, his face glowing under the fluorescent lights, and felt something cold settle in my stomach. Not surprise. I'd seen this coming for months, maybe years. Ryan had always been the golden child, the one with big ideas and bigger dreams. But standing there, invisible in my own family store, the weight of it pressed down on me like the Georgia humidity in August. I'm excited to bring Walker General into the 21st century, Ryan announced, his voice carrying easily over the crowd. We're going to expand our online presence, maybe even start doing delivery. The Walker name is going to mean something bigger than just this little store. Mrs. Henderson from the church auxiliary leaned toward her friend, her whisper cutting through the applause. Ethan's a good worker, bless his heart, but Ryan's got the vision for this kind of thing. I pressed my back against the shelving unit, my throat tight. Vision. That's what I lacked. Apparently. 32 years of quiet dedication, of showing up every day, of keeping this place running when Dad's arthritis flared up, or when Ryan was off chasing his latest scheme. None of that was vision. Mom caught my eye from across the room and offered a small, apologetic smile. I nodded back, forcing my face into something that might pass for contentment. The last thing I wanted was to make this harder for her than it already was. As the crowd began to disperse, shaking Ryan's hand and clapping Dad on the back, I slipped out through the stockroom door into the alley behind the store. The October air was crisp against my face, carrying the scent of burning leaves and the distant promise of winter. My phone buzzed. A text from Mrs. Caldwell, Grandpa Thomas's caretaker. Ethan, you need to come to the cabin right away. Your grandfather is asking for you. The drive to Grandpa Thomas's cabin took me through the winding back roads of Millbrook County, where Spanish moss draped the oak trees like old lace curtains. The setting sun painted everything amber, but I barely noticed. My hands gripped the steering wheel of my beat-up Ford as Mrs. Caldwell's urgent words echoed in my head. The cabin sat at the end of a gravel path, modest and weathered, like everything else Grandpa touched. He'd built it himself after his falling out with Dad 20 years ago, a story nobody ever told me the full truth about. All I knew was that one day Grandpa was helping run the store, and the next he was living out here like some kind of hermit, visiting town only for church and groceries. Mrs. Caldwell met me at the door, her face etched with worry. "He's been asking for you all day, Ethan. Won't rest until he sees you." Quote, I found him in his bedroom, propped up against pillows, his once strong frame reduced to skin stretched over bird bones. But his eyes, those sharp blue eyes that had taught me to whittle when I was 7, still held their familiar warmth. "Ethan, boy," his voice was barely a whisper. "Sit down. I don't have much time." "Grandpa, you're going to be—" "Stop." He raised a trembling hand. "I need to tell you something your father never understood. You were always the one who saw things clearly, who worked with your hands like I did. That store, it wasn't Harold's to give away." From beneath his pillow he pulled out a leather-bound journal, its pages yellowed and edges worn smooth. Beside it lay a small iron key, blackened with age. "This is for you," he said, pressing both into my hands. "Read it when I'm gone. That key, it opens what's rightfully yours. Your father, he's a good man but stubborn. He chose the easy path, the flashy one. But you, Ethan, you got the heart for what really matters." His breathing grew shallower. I wanted to ask him what he meant, but something in his expression told me to wait. "Promise me," he whispered. "Promise you'll read every word." "I promise, Grandpa." He smiled then, and for a moment he looked like the man who used to take me fishing at Miller's Creek. That's my boy. Thomas Walker died 3 hours later, with me holding his hand and the journal clutched against my chest. I didn't sleep that night. Instead, I sat at my kitchen table under the harsh overhead light, reading Grandpa's journal by the glow of my desk lamp. What I found there changed everything I thought I knew about my family. The entries dated back to 1962, when Grandpa and Dad first opened Walker General Store as equal partners. But as the years went on, the tone of the entries grew darker. Grandpa wrote about Dad's increasing greed, his refusal to listen to ideas about expanding into farming supplies and community services. "Harold thinks bigger means better," one entry read, "but he doesn't understand that serving people means being part of them, not above them." I tried to buy the Hendricks property for a second location, a place where we could do things right, help folks grow their own food, build community, but Harold blocked it, said it was too risky, too small thinking. My coffee grew cold as I read about heated arguments, about Grandpa's dream of creating something more than just another store. He'd wanted to build a place where families could learn about sustainable farming, where neighbors helped neighbors. Dad had called it hippie nonsense. The final entry was dated 1985, just before their partnership dissolved. I bought the land myself. Harold doesn't know. Someday, when he's ready to listen, maybe we can heal this family. But if not, then someone else will have to carry the dream forward. Someone who understands that true success isn't measured in profit margins. My hands shook as I turned the page and found a hand-drawn map. The property line was clearly marked, 60 acres of prime land on the eastern edge of town, with a creek running through it and what looked like the foundation of an old building. I drove out there at dawn, the key heavy in my pocket. The land was overgrown now, but I could see the bones of Grandpa's vision: rich soil, natural irrigation, and at the center of it all, a rusty metal box buried beneath a pile of stones. The key fit perfectly. Inside, wrapped in oilcloth, I found a deed with my name on it, dated just 2 years ago. Below it was a bank statement showing a trust account containing $100,000 and a letter in Grandpa's careful handwriting. For Ethan Walker, the true heir of the Walker legacy. I sat there on the damp ground, surrounded by weeds and wildflowers, and for the first time in my adult life I felt like I mattered. Sheriff Dalton Griggs had known our family since before I was born. His weathered face creased into a frown as he examined the documents I'd brought to his office, his reading glasses perched on the end of his nose. "Well, I'll be damned," he muttered, setting the papers down. "Thomas finally did it. You knew about this?" Griggs leaned back in his chair, which creaked under his weight. "Your grandfather came to see me about 5 years ago, asked me to witness some papers, keep some things in my safe deposit box. He said someday you'd need them. Telling and preparing this story took us a lot of time, so if you are enjoying it, subscribe to our channel. It means a lot to us. Now back to the story. He led me to the town bank, where we retrieved a manila envelope from a safety deposit box I never knew existed. Inside was a notarized will amendment, pictures of the original land purchase, and a letter of intent that made my chest tight with emotion. Ethan has the heart this family needs, Grandpa had written. He understands that real wealth comes from building up your community, not just taking from it. The boy sacrificed his own dreams to help his family, never asking for recognition. It's time someone recognized him. There's more, Griggs said quietly. Your grandfather left specific instructions. That land comes with conditions. It's meant to serve the community. He called it Walker Roots, a place where people could learn, grow things, support each other. I stared at the documents, my vision blurring. Why didn't he tell Dad? Because Harold never understood what Thomas was trying to build. Your grandfather hoped that someday he would, but... Griggs shrugged. Some folks can't see past their own ambitions. As we walked back to my truck, Griggs put a hand on my shoulder. Your grandfather was proud of you, son. Said you reminded him of himself at your age. Quiet, but with deep roots. Maya Reynolds found me 3 days later, sitting on the overgrown foundation stones of what would have been Grandpa's market. We'd grown up together, but she'd left Millbrook for college and a marriage that didn't work out. Now she was back, working as the town historian and archivist. Ethan? She picked her way carefully through the tall grass, her auburn hair catching the morning sunlight. Mrs. Caldwell told me you might be out here. I looked up at her, probably a mess with my work clothes and 3 days of stubble. Hey, Maya. She sat down beside me on the stones, not caring about her clean jeans. I heard about the store, about Ryan getting it. I nodded, not trusting my voice. And I heard about your grandfather's land. That surprised me. News travels fast. Sheriff Griggs is my second cousin. He's terrible at keeping secrets when he thinks someone needs support. She smiled, that same gentle expression I remembered from high school. Tell me about it. So I did. I told her about the journal, about Grandpa's dream, about the land and the money and the overwhelming feeling that maybe, finally, someone had seen me for who I really was. She listened without interrupting, her dark eyes focused on mine. What are you going to do? She asked when I finished. I think I'm going to try to build what Grandpa wanted, a place where people can learn about growing their own food, where neighbors help neighbors. Not to compete with the store, but to give people something different. Maya was quiet for a long moment. Then she stood up and brushed off her jeans. I think I'd like to help you with that. Over the next month, we worked together every evening and weekend. Maya researched permits and zoning laws, while I cleared land and planned the layout. We talked about Grandpa's vision, a community market with garden plots, workshops on canning and preserving, maybe even a small cafe where people could gather. It was during one of those evenings, as we sat sharing a thermos of coffee and watching the sunset paint the sky purple, that Maya reached over and took my hand. You know what I love about this? She said. What? You're not trying to prove anything to anyone. You're just trying to build something good. When she leaned over and kissed me, soft and tentative, I felt something shift inside my chest. For the first time in my life, I wasn't just the quiet Walker boy who got passed over. I was Ethan, building something that mattered. Ryan found out about the land on a Tuesday morning in November. I was at the store buying supplies when he cornered me by the paint display, his face flushed with anger. What the hell do you think you're doing? He hissed, keeping his voice low so customers wouldn't hear. I'm building something, Ryan. Something that was left to me. Left to you? His laugh was bitter. By the old man who abandoned this family 20 years ago? Jesus, Ethan, don't you see what this looks like? You're starting a competing business right under Dad's nose. It's not competing, it's different. Bullshit. He stepped closer, and I could smell the coffee and desperation on his breath. You've always been jealous that I got the store. Now you're trying to undermine everything we've built. The accusation hit harder than it should have. I worked in this store for 12 years, Ryan. I know every inch of it. I kept it running when Dad was sick, when you were off at college, when you were trying to launch that failed restaurant in Atlanta. I'm not jealous. I'm done waiting for scraps. That night, Dad called and asked me to come to dinner. I knew it was going to be an ambush, but I went anyway. The family dining room felt smaller than I remembered, the walls closing in as Dad sat across from me with his arms crossed. Mom hovered in the kitchen doorway, wringing a dish towel between her hands. Ryan tells me you're planning some kind of farm market, Dad said without preamble. It's the land Grandpa left me. I have every right. You have every right to tear this family apart, is that it? His voice rose, and I saw the flash of temper that had driven Grandpa away all those years ago. That old fool filled your head with ideas about community this and sustainable that, but what you're doing is selfish, Ethan. Pure selfishness. Harold, please, Mom started. No, Ella, someone needs to say it. He turned back to me, his face red. You want to embarrass your brother, embarrass this family, because you couldn't handle not getting everything handed to you. I stood up slowly, my hands steady despite the rage building in my chest. I dropped out of college to help you, Dad. I gave up my plans, my dreams, to keep this family afloat. And you handed everything to Ryan without even asking if I wanted it. Because Ryan has vision. Ryan has run every business he's touched into the ground. The words came out sharper than I intended, but I didn't take them back. The restaurant, the consulting firm, that ridiculous app idea. Every time you and Mom bailed him out. Well, I'm done waiting for you to notice that I might have something to contribute too. The silence stretched between us like a chasm. Finally, Dad spoke, his voice cold. If you do this, Ethan, don't expect support from this family. I looked at Mom, hoping for something, anything, but she just stared at the floor. I never did, I said, and walked out. The vandalism happened on a Friday night in December. I arrived at the property Saturday morning to find my nearly completed market building destroyed. Windows smashed, the new plumbing torn apart, and "Go home" spray-painted across the front wall. Sheriff Griggs met me there, his face grim as he surveyed the damage. Any idea who might have done this? I stared at the destruction, my heart heavy but not broken. I have suspicions, but no proof. You want to file a report? Yes, but I also want to get back to work. Maya arrived an hour later with coffee and a carload of supplies. She took one look at the damage and rolled up her sleeves. Where do we start? She asked. By noon, half the town had shown up to help. Old Mrs. Henderson brought sandwiches. The Garrett boys, who worked construction, showed up with tools and new lumber. Even Pastor Williams came by with a crew from the church. Thomas was a good man, Mrs. Henderson told me as she handed me a ham sandwich. He helped my family when my husband lost his job back in '89. Never asked for anything in return. This place you're building, it's what he would have wanted. Quote, as we worked, I noticed a figure watching from the road. Ryan stood beside his truck, his face unreadable. For a moment, our eyes met, and I saw something that might have been regret. But then he got back in his truck and drove away. By sunset, the damage was repaired, and the market looked better than before. Maya and I sat on the front steps, exhausted but satisfied, watching the last of the volunteers pack up their tools. You know what I realized today, I said. What? I don't need Dad's approval anymore. I don't need Ryan to understand. These people, they see what I'm trying to build. That's enough. Maya leaned against my shoulder. Your grandfather would be proud. Walker Roots opened on a crisp Saturday morning in February. The market buzzed with activity. Local farmers selling fresh produce, Mrs. Patterson demonstrating how to make preserves, and the Martinez family teaching children how to plant seeds in small pots. I stood behind the counter of the small cafe section, watching families browse the stalls and kids play in the designated garden area. Maya had organized a bluegrass band, and their music drifted through the space, mixing with laughter and conversation. Excuse me. I turned to find Mom standing there, her hands clasped nervously in front of her. She looked smaller somehow, older. "Hi, Mom. Could I look around?" I gestured toward the market. "Of course." I watched her walk through the stalls, stopping to talk to vendors, admiring the children's garden plots, running her fingers along the handmade wooden signs Maya had painted. When she reached the memorial corner, a small display with pictures of Grandpa and a plaque explaining his vision, she broke down. I found her there 20 minutes later, tears streaming down her face. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "I'm so sorry, Ethan. I should have stood up for you. I should have said something years ago." I put my arms around her, feeling the weight of decades of unspoken hurt. "It's okay, Mom." "No, it's not. Your father, he's stubborn, and he's proud, and he made a mistake. But I let him make it. I let him overlook you because it was easier than fighting." "Mom, you built something beautiful here," she said, pulling back to look at me. "Something that helps people. This is what a Walker legacy should look like." As she left, I saw another figure in the parking lot. Ryan sat in his truck, watching the market with an expression I couldn't read. Our eyes met through the windshield, and for a moment, I thought he might come in. But then he drove away. 3 months later, Ryan appeared at my market on a Thursday evening after closing. I was cleaning up when I heard the bell over the door chime. He stood in the doorway, his shoulders slumped, looking nothing like the confident man who'd accepted Dad's business just months before. "Ethan, could we talk?" I set down the broom and gestured to one of the cafe tables. "What's on your mind?" "The store's failing." The words came out flat, defeated. "I'm 3 months behind on rent, 2 months behind on supplier payments. Dad's in the hospital with chest pains from the stress." I studied my brother's face. The cocky smile was gone, replaced by genuine exhaustion. "What happened?" "I don't know what I'm doing," his voice cracked. "All those big ideas I had. The online expansion, the delivery service. They cost money we didn't have. And I don't understand the day-to-day stuff like you did. Mrs. Patterson stopped shopping with us because I accidentally ordered the wrong brand of flour she needs for her baking. The Hendricks family took their hardware business to the big box store in Clayton because I couldn't figure out their credit account." He looked up at me, and I saw the little brother who used to follow me around the store when we were kids. I was wondering, could you help me? Maybe come back and run things while I figure out what to do. The old Ethan would have said yes immediately. Would have dropped everything to save the family business, to be the good son who fixed everyone else's problems. But I wasn't that person anymore. "I can't do that, Ryan." His face fell. "Please, Ethan, I know I don't deserve it, but it's not about deserving. I have my own business now, my own responsibilities. The people who depend on this place, the farmers who sell here, the families who come to the workshops, they're counting on me." "So you're just going to let the store fail?" "I'm going to let you figure out how to save it, or not." I leaned forward. "Ryan, you spent your whole life having other people clean up your mistakes. Dad, Mom, me. Maybe it's time you learned to solve your own problems." He was quiet for a long time. Finally, he nodded. "You're right. I don't know how. Start small. Learn the basics. Talk to the customers instead of trying to impress them. And maybe—" I hesitated, then decided to offer what I could. "Maybe you could help out here on weekends? Learn how a community business actually works. You'd let me do that?" "If you're serious about learning, yes. But Ryan, no grand schemes, no shortcuts, just honest work." For the first time in months, my brother smiled. "Okay, I'd like that." Dad asked to see me on a warm evening in May. I found him in the hospital bed, looking frail but alert. The heart attack had been mild, but it had forced him to confront things he'd been avoiding. "Sit down, son." I pulled a chair close to his bed. "How are you feeling?" Like an old fool, he turned his head to look at me fully. "Did you ever hate me, Ethan?" The question caught me off guard. "No, Dad. I was angry, disappointed, but I never hated you. I would have. If I were you, I would have hated me." He reached for the water cup on his bedside table with shaking hands. Your whole life, you were the steady one, the reliable one. You kept us all together while Ryan chased his dreams and I chased my pride. Dad, let me finish. His voice was stronger now. Your grandfather tried to tell me, years ago. He said I was so busy looking for flash and ambition that I couldn't see the real strength right in front of me. I thought he was just being sentimental, talking about community and service like they mattered more than profit. He reached into the drawer of his bedside table and pulled out something wrapped in cloth. He left this for you. Asked me to give it to you when I finally understood what he meant. Inside the cloth was Grandpa's old pocket knife, the one he'd used to teach me to whittle. The handle was worn smooth from decades of use, and my name was carved into the brass plate. He carved that the day you were born, Dad said quietly. Told me you were going to be the one to carry on the real Walker legacy. I was too stupid to listen. The knife felt warm in my hand. Thank you. I'm proud of you, son. What you built with that market, that's what our family name should represent. Not just business, but community. Not just profit, but purpose. 2 weeks later, our whole family gathered at Walker Roots for what Maya had organized as a Thomas Walker Memorial Dinner. Ryan had been working weekends at the market, learning the business from the ground up, and to my surprise, he was good at it. The customers liked him when he stopped trying to impress them and just helped them find what they needed. Mom and Dad sat at one of the cafe tables, Dad still moving slowly but insisting he felt better than he had in years. Maya was showing off the engagement ring I'd given her the week before and already talking about having the wedding reception here at the market. As the evening wound down, I found myself standing in Grandpa's memorial corner looking at his photograph. Ryan joined me, carrying 2 cups of coffee. You know what's funny, he said, handing me a cup. What? I always thought I was the one with vision, but you're the one who actually built something lasting. We both got what we needed, Ryan. You got the chance to learn who you really are when the stakes matter. I got the chance to stop waiting for permission to matter. He nodded, looking around the market. Think Grandpa would be proud? Before I could answer, Maya appeared beside us, carrying a leather journal I'd never seen before. I found this in your grandfather's things, she said, opening it to the last entry. Mrs. Caldwell thought you should read it. The entry was dated just a week before Grandpa died. I can see it now, clearer than ever. Ethan understands what I was trying to build all those years. Not a business, but a legacy. Not just success, but significance. The boy who was always quiet, always overlooked, is going to be the one who shows this family what really matters. Sometimes the quiet ones build the strongest homes. I closed the journal and looked around at my family, really looked at them, Mom and Dad, finally seeing each other clearly after years of miscommunication. Ryan, learning that real confidence comes from competence, not charisma. Maya, who believed in me before I learned to believe in myself. Yeah, I said, answering Ryan's question, I think he would be. Outside, the Georgia evening was settling into that golden hour when everything looks possible. The market would open again tomorrow, and the day after that, and for as many days as our community needed it. I wasn't the forgotten son anymore, the one who got passed over. I was Ethan Walker, and I had built something that would last. Up next, we have 2 more incredible stories that are waiting for you. Just click the image you want to watch, and it will take you there. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to subscribe. It would mean a lot.